Nvidia stock is down over 7% from its all-time high closing. And on today's episode, what I want to do is the following. First, I want to take a closer look at why I believe the stock hasn't really moved much after reporting amazing earnings. And the second thing I want to do is kind of explain what I believe are the catalysts that are needed to drive this stock to new levels. So let's take a closer look in today's episode. But before we go any further, make sure to hit the thumbs up, make sure to hit the subscribe button, check out the pinned comment for special offer at fool.com/Jose. And right now for the Black Friday and Cyber Monday weekend, I do have my semiconductor earnings ebook, 50% off, no coupon code needed. Check it out on the pinned comment below.
I want to thank The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video, and check out fool.com/Jose for the 10 best stocks to buy now. With that link, you get a promotional offer for the subscription service. Now, let's continue with today's episode.
All right, so I am dropping this episode on Friday. I did a video earlier today, but I just want to say happy Thanksgiving to everybody that celebrated. Hope everybody had a great time with the family. Hope everybody had great food. Hope everybody had something to be thankful for, but I'm pretty sure everybody did. And I just want to say thank you guys for all the support that you have given me this past year. Now, obviously, the number one stock we follow in this channel is Nvidia. And the main reason is this is my number one position in my overall portfolio. And I believe Nvidia is such a huge movement into the AI market that even if you don't own Nvidia, every single video, you learn something new about the AI market that you can take to your own investment, being some other semiconductor company, being some other software play, being some other kind of tech or AI company in general. So Nvidia allows us to get insight into this industry that's evolving at such a rapid pace. Now, unfortunately, the company stock price hasn't really moved much in the past month. In the past month, the stock is actually down roughly 2%. In the past 6 months, though, the stock is doing amazing, up over 20%. And year to date, the stock is up over 187%. But since the company reported earnings and since kind of those peaks of this month, the stock is down over 7%. And I believe if you follow this stock, there's usually 4 answers when we discuss why the stock hasn't gone up. And I want to explain what I believe are my thoughts, but just the overall answer, I want to say number one is usually, no disrespect here, but usually if you're a beginner in the stock investing world, one of the first things you're going to say is stock manipulation, right? Nobody, big hedge funds are making sure that Nvidia doesn't move. Nobody wants me to make money, or some excuse of why the stock is being manipulated in one way or another. I want to say, while I do believe stock manipulation is possible, I don't think it's possible for a company with a market cap of $3.4 trillion and with the type of volume that it sees on a daily basis. So I personally don't think stock manipulation is a right reason for the stock not moving. The second excuse I feel we hear a lot is the market doesn't understand Nvidia's growth, right? And right when we think of Nvidia's future growth, there's so much to think about. There's the next generation Blackwell, which is ramping up right now. We should start to see sales in Q4 and continue to ramp up throughout the year. The second thing is we have Rubin coming out the year after Blackwell Ultra. So there's the Rubin platform as well. So Nvidia's innovating at such a rapid pace, and there's so much innovation happening in the AI market that many people might not really understand Nvidia's growth. And I want to say that is true, in my opinion, to some extent. But if we take a closer look at revenue estimates, I don't think it's fair to say that. At the end of the day, one of the biggest things that I believe drives stock price is expectations from the company. And we can see in the last year, Nvidia did revenue of roughly $61 billion. By the end of this current fiscal year, which ends in about 3 months from now, Nvidia's revenue is expected to more than 100% growth to $129 billion. So I don't think it's fair to say that many are not understanding the type of Nvidia growth, because we can see based on expectations, the growth is there and people are seeing it. For next fiscal year, a little bit over a year from now, Nvidia's revenue is expected to go from 130 billion to 195. And the year after that is expected to grow to 234. So while I do believe that Nvidia's growth is not completely understood, I want to say there is a lot of growth baked in. Now, the next question kind of goes with this. The next option kind of goes with this one, and expectations are baked in. I personally believe this is probably the most important reason, and we could see here from revenue estimates that, hey, look, analysts are already expecting this company to do well. So they need to have some form of catalyst for the stock price to really go up. And that's what I'm going to spend the second portion of this video doing, is kind of talking more about those catalysts of where I can see Nvidia really driving new stock price levels. The final and fourth reason I believe is also true is the stock, while it is down on a monthly basis, year to date is up over 187%. So unfortunately, it sucks if you didn't get here early in Nvidia. If you got here recently, obviously you're expecting maybe more of that growth. I think it all is in the perspective of when you purchased Nvidia in general. But for me, being a multi-year investor in Nvidia, I want to say this stock is doing amazing. And even if it didn't go up much during earnings, 180 plus percent year to date growth is amazing and something I really wouldn't complain much about. So those are my thoughts on why Nvidia stock has not gone up, the stock manipulation, which I think is pretty much false for Nvidia. Market doesn't understand Nvidia growth. I think there is some truth to that. Expectations are baked in. I also I believe there's some truth to that as well. And obviously the stock is already up 187% year to date. So what more can you want? So I believe those are the three main reasons the stock is not up. Now, the catalyst that I believe could cause the stock to jump to new levels is, first, in my opinion, one of the most possible is supply chain improvements. And for those that are not familiar, NVIDIA's AI chips are supply constrained. And supply constraint means that this company, no matter how much demand they have, they can only make X amount of chips. Technically, they don't make it. Their partners, TSMC, make the chips. But TSMC has a capacity of how much AI chips they can make. Now, the capacity and this bottleneck is thanks to a process within the manufacturing step called advanced packaging. And advanced packaging, while the company TSMC is increasing capacity at high levels, it's still not enough. So analysts and pretty much anybody here knows that TSMC is increasing capacity. What I believe would be a huge catalyst is if there was a huge influx of CoWoS capacity that was not expected. And this can happen in a few ways. First, TSMC can be moving and increasing capacity at a faster level than previously expected. So that could be one way for supply chain to improve. The second thing is other kind of players in the advanced packaging play start to develop more and advance more within their CoWoS solution or similar to CoWoS, and allows them to also help TSMC's build this AI chips. So I think those two are possible and I believe could cause a huge positive price reaction on the stock because it could help Nvidia outperform expectations. And just while we're talking here about supply chain, one thing I hear a lot about Nvidia is, hey, Jose, look, Blackwell's coming out and revenue is going to continue to grow. While Blackwell would be a new reason for customers to buy more AI chips, it is important to remember that Blackwell and Hopper pretty much use the same capacity. So, or kind of saying the same type of solutions. So in theory, let's just go into the theory where there was no addition advanced packaging. Let's say capacity stayed the same. The manufacturing line stayed the same. Let's say, for example, NVIDIA TSMC can only make 100 Hopper chips and they move on to Blackwell. In theory, because they use similar CoWoS packaging, TSMC can either only make 100 Hopper chips or 100 Blackwell chips. It's not like it's incremental addition. It's not that they'll make 100 Hopper chips and they'll also make 100 Blackwell chips. This is very important to know because it understands that, hey, look, the incremental growth is not there at the moment. The only reason NVIDIA sees incremental growth in the data center space is because TSMC is improving that CoWoS capacity. No other reason out there. Now, if you are a true kind of techie, just share some insight here. Blackwell actually use a product called an advanced packaging called CoWAS L instead of what Hopper uses, which is CoWAS S. So in theory, Blackwell, if they had the same capacity as Hopper, because CoWAS L uses more area, then you would actually make less Blackwell chips than Hopper chips. And it's not like Nvidia is really increasing the prices of their AI chips anymore. It's really starting, there are many reports that showcase that the same Hopper chip, if you buy a Blackwell chip, is roughly the same price. There's not much of a sticker price increase between Hopper and Blackwell. So I just kind of want to explain a little bit more about the supply chain there. But I believe one huge catalyst after I went over that tangent is that the supply chain increases at a faster level than the market is expecting. And I believe that is very, very much possible. The second thing that I believe could be a huge catalyst for Nvidia's stock price to jump up is some form of AI innovation. For example, let's say there is a new form of AI scaling. Most recently, we heard about Strawberry, which we've talked about a lot, and it kind of increases inference time scaling. Now, if we continue to see more innovations like that, I believe that could be a huge catalyst for the stock. I actually believe time scaling with Strawberry is already something bullish, and we're going to see this kind of grow over time. And one of the things many analysts are not having baked in their expectations. But also, if AI actually discovers something new, for example, with this time scaling, with this inference scaling, what if AI discovers some form of new drug, some form of new technology, some form of new chemical reaction, some form of new called physics law, something new? I believe that kind of spotlight will increase the stain or the reputation of artificial intelligence, which will cause more positive reaction to the stock. So I believe if AI discovers something dramatic within the next few months, within the next few years, that could be something that Nvidia will benefit dramatically from. In forms of AI innovation, we also have things like robotics. The robotics market, if we really do see some form of robotics, autonomous driving within the next few years, that could be another reason the stock can jump so much higher. The next one, another type of AI innovation, it's called distributed AI training. One of the big things right now is AI training, and for these heavy AI trainings, because of the way AI chips communicate with each other, you need to build these massive data centers. Unfortunately, the data center space has a lot of bottlenecks, from power, from cooling, from building time. But if there was this thing called distributed training where you can have multiple clusters all over the world and still kind of trained with each other and make it seem like these scatter GPU clusters all over the world are acting as one big supercomputer and you can still train, it would eliminate a lot of the bottlenecks. So Nvidia and all these other players, they wouldn't have to just build one super large data center. What they can do is build 15 large data centers that together, spread out throughout this country, throughout the world, can make up that supercomputer. So they will still use the same amount of GPUs as a big data center, except they're no longer bottlenecked by power constraints, by energy constraint, by cooling constraint. And distributed AI training, I believe, could be something that can move the stock to new levels because it will open up a huge new market for the stock. Then outside of AI innovation, you have kind of market growth. We are already hearing public companies create 100,000 GPU clusters. But when we start to publicly hear of multiple of these, I think that would be very bullish for Nvidia, especially when we start seeing 500 plus GPU cluster, 1 million GPU clusters. I think that's when the market is going to say, hey, look, this is crazy and we're still getting started. And Jensen does believe we're going to get into those 1 million GPU clusters within the next few years. The final thing, so we have supply chain improvements, we have AI innovations and the various AI innovations that I listed, we have overall market growth. The final thing I want to say is other bottlenecks solved. Overall, building data centers takes a lot of time. If there was a revolutionary way to speed this up, that would be bullish for the overall AI space. Power limit constraints are fixed. If there was some form of revolutionary way that we can become less power constrained, that would be very, very bullish for the stock. Cooling constraint as well. So if any of those bottlenecks are solved, that could be another boost up in the stock, because once you have those constraints pushed off, you will have a lot more buying pressure. So I want to say all these catalysts that I mentioned are not impossible. It's not something that that has a low percentage chance of happening. I believe all these innovations and all these catalysts that I mentioned could happen within the next few years, within the next few months, some of them, and this can be some of the reasons the stock price can go up. Now, I believe Nvidia is going to be a long-term hold. I've mentioned it in plenty and plenty of episodes that I believe Nvidia is the stock for patient investors, and that's both for buying and for selling. For me, I personally wouldn't be buying Nvidia in big bulks at these levels. I believe there's going to be many negative news come out every once in a while that can cause the stock price to sell off at better prices for entering big positions. Again, this is probably because Nvidia is my number one position, and I feel very, very lucky, and it gives me the ability to be very, very patient on when to add more and more. So I hope you guys enjoy this overall tangent on Nvidia. Let me know what are your thoughts on what are some potential catalysts that can help this stock grow to new levels, especially ones that I didn't mention. Take care, have a good day, and see you next time.